All right, guys, how's it going? I'm kind of preparing for my CSWP exam, and I was going through this, and I had this part pulled up, and I said, hey, why don't I go through the process of modeling this thing so you can kind of see what to expect during the CSWP exam, and what processes, what skills and stuff you might need to know. Now, keep in mind that if you do take this, it's not going to be the same as what you see on the screen. There might be some minor differences, and yeah. Okay, so the first big thing that's going to save you a lot of time is in the exam, they're going to ask you to modify the part quickly using some kind of a determined variable. And in order to do that, you're going to use an equation. You can click over here, come in here, and you can type in a different variable, a, b, x, y, z, and they'll kind of give you these numbers and ask you to fiddle with them as you go through the exam. So once you have that all set up, you're going to start modeling your part. So in my example, if we go through the design tree here, we start off by modeling an easy triangle. This is defined by your variables here. For example, this one is x. You're going to want to make sure you put your equal sign and then your parentheses. You can also just select your global variable, and that will be good. But the main thing you're looking for is see how this one has the sigma symbol right next to this variable, and this one doesn't. So if I was to come in here and modify my equation for x, let's actually do it for fun. We're going to change a to 250. You'll notice if I come back in here, that variable didn't change because you didn't have that equal sign. So that's a big thing you need to make sure you do. When I did my practice exam, I did not do that. So it screwed everything up. Okay. So we've extruded our triangle. Now we're going to come down to the next thing we do. It has us extrude this little rib. And my intention for extruding this rib was to just locate where this next triangle is going to go. So here's what that would look like. You'll model up your triangle, and this rib right here that you've extruded out is going to locate this triangle. Now keep in mind that all of this is done on the front plane and extruded in a way that the front plane goes directly through the center of the part. And that'll be important in a little bit, and I'll explain some troubles that I had while I was developing the part. So if we go to the next part, this is where some trouble happened. So what I should have done, what I did is I made the sketch on this plane of the rib. What I should have done was made the sketch on the front plane, and that would save me some trouble later. And I'll talk about that. But essentially, we're just sketching the profile of this, I don't know, shelf, call it a shelf, onto the bottom of our rib and extruding it out. And it will look like this from the top. So if I had done this from the front plane and did a mid-plane extrusion, I could have extruded this side and this side in one go. But what I ended up doing is doing both of the extrusions on their own, which ended up actually costing me quite a bit of time while I was taking the test. So after we extrude the shelf, essentially what I did is did a extruded cut down this side of the part from the tip of this triangle to the tip of this triangle to get that sloped geometry that you have in the part. So again, I did that twice on both sides, which I could have done in 2 operations instead of 4 operations, which would have saved me time and would save you time on the exam. Next thing you do is pretty basic. You go in and drop in some fillets on the top and bottom sides of this shape. Now, as you go through the exam, I think on the first part, these aren't here, this thing right here. And then one of the other configurations is you take this this hole, and you're going to put another one on this side. Really, if you have a basic understanding of modeling and understand what we're going through now, you'd have a pretty easy time getting through this. The next thing we did is we just extruded cut a hole through this. And again, if there's another one on this side, you're going to want to make sure that hole goes through. Next, we do a kind of a profile of this circle, because what it wants you to do is extruded cut another profile through here. And that is pretty much the basics of this part. Throughout the exam, it's going to have you come in here and do all kinds of crap with the equation. So I'll do a quick little example before the end of this video so you kind of know what to expect. So for example, they might say this is going to be 221, and you'll see the part kind of morph to that shape, and maybe this is 95, and you'll see the part morph to that shape. So the first step of the test is going to be model this part, and it's going to ask you to evaluate the mass properties, which you do by going to evaluate mass properties, and it will be here after you set the material for the part. And once you've got that dialed in, if your equations are set up correctly, you will be able to answer the next couple of questions within seconds while you just punch in your numbers like I showed you earlier here. So, question 1 might say, okay, A is 221, but now it's going to be 219, and it wants you to evaluate the mass for 219 for A and 78 for B. So now you'd go evaluate the mass and drop in your answer in the exam. You just want to make sure on the first question for the multiple choice that you select the correct answer. So that's the process for modeling this CSWP part. It's for segment 1. I haven't done segment 2 yet. I'm working on it, but maybe I'll do a little video for segment 2 as well once I get it done. Hopefully this is helpful. Peace out.